When we think about getting a great finish with our knitting, we're often thinking about how we're going to sew things up, but that's the very last stage in things. Before you even cast on, you need to be thinking about the finish you're going to achieve. It may be if you've been disappointed with your knitting, with your project, particularly around the edges of it. Maybe you're using I wouldn't say wrong, because there's no such thing as a wrong cast on, but you might not be using the best cast on method for what you're trying to achieve. Now, you'd be, of course, forgiven for thinking that there's actually more than one way to cast on. Many of us start our knitting lives just using the one way of casting on that we were taught when we started. And for many years, decades even, I imagine there was only one way of casting on. Fact is, there are many. There's a plethora. I wouldn't say, maybe hundreds, who knows. But the good news is you don't need to know them all. I think every knitter just needs a basic repertoire of a few trusted cast-ons to keep them going. And then as you find new projects, hopefully with good patterns, that if a special cast-on is going to be of value to enhance that project, hopefully it'll say so in the pattern for you. But you can add to your repertoire, or just dip in for a specialist cast-on. But the fact is, if you've got a good little range of cast-ons, that will see you through. So hi, I'm Donna, and I'm kicking off this series of videos to teach you a nice little toolkit, Cast On Toolkit we'll call it, a range of 7 different workhorse cast-ons that you'll find you'll use again and again, and that should set you up, cover most of your knitting bases, and yeah, and from then on you can always dip into a more specialist methods if your fancy takes you. So before we get stuck into looking at these cast-ons, for this video I just want to spend a little bit of time talking through which horse you choose for which course, basically. So why would you choose one cast-on over another depending on what project that you're working on? Okay. And then going on after this video, we'll have a cast on each time, and by all means feel free to pull up a chair, grab some knitting needles and some yarn and have a go alongside. It might be useful to make a little collection of small swatches and sort of pin them to a card or something to so you've got some information and a reference, and then when you're trying to decide for a project what's gonna work best for it, then you've got that. You can have a little look and see how it's going to work. Okay, so when you're thinking about which cast on to use, you want to think about a number of different kind of qualities or factors that you might want to take on board for your project. So, for example, does the edge need to be quite elastic? Thinking the edge of a sock or a hat. Or does it need to have a good bit of stretch? So I'm thinking of a shawl. If you've made a shawl and you want to block it, so you've got a nice flowing edge, you don't want a tight little edge, otherwise you're not going to ever be able to block that into a nice shape. Do you want it to be quite firm? Are you doing a cushion, or is it for the bottom of a jacket? Or so you really don't want it to be stretchy in that case, and you don't want it to sort of be flippity floppity. You want it to give you a decent sort of edge. So yeah, what's your project calling for? Also, what stitch pattern are you going to be starting? If you're knitting a jumper, does it start with a rib? Does it start with moss stitch? Does it start with a garter stitch edge? All of these things will be something to consider, because one cast on might look really nice and complement one particular stitch pattern, but it's not always happy campers. It may be the opposite is true. It just looks awful. So that would have a bearing in your decision making. The other thing you want to consider is where on the garment? Where is it? Where, you know, where is this cast on? Where is the edge? Is it along the bottom of a garment? Is it around a neck? You know, you certainly don't want that. You might be knitting a top down jumper or sweater, for example, and you certainly don't want a tight little cast on there. You're never going to get your neck in. Equally, you know, you might want a bit of give around a mitt, but you certainly need quite a bit of elasticity around the top edge of the ribbing of a sock, you know, otherwise you're never going to get your heel in. So it's about the function as well. So getting a good finish isn't just about what it looks like, it's about, is it going to function well for you as well? Are you going to be able to get your foot in that sock, you know, and get some good use out of it, having spent all that time knitting it? Another factor you might want to take on board is this like a permanent edge, or is it something you need temporarily? What I mean, for example, is a permanent edge would be say the bottom of a you know, if that's the absolute hem of a jumper, for example, or a cardigan. But you might be making I don't know, a scarf where you particularly want the cast off edge to be a feature, and in that case you need to start in the middle. So there are times you will want to start knitting in one direction, and then without putting a hard seam in there, you might want to pick up those stitches and then sort of seamlessly be knitting in the other direction. So you know, a provisional cast on is the sort of thing you'd need for that. And the other thing is, you know, is this just is the cast on purely about function, getting some stitches on the needle and away you go, or do you want that to be have a, you know, be a feature in its own right? Do you want that to be a decorative edge? Because there are plenty of options for that as well, adding another little bit of detail to one of your projects. And these are things you can, even if the pattern hasn't got it, these are little changes that you can make in order to you know, make this unique to you, make it your own. Improvise a little in a very relatively easy way. There's not too much kind of thinking maths or stuff like that required, and just to make it more to your tastes. So having an awareness of all these different factors gives you choices, gives you options. And you might say, well, why don't all patterns tell you what cast on to use? It's down to individual choice, isn't it? We've all got our favourites, we've all got our preferences of how things look, what ones we like to work. You know, if it's like is it something we enjoy doing? If we feel like we're just wrangling with an octopus, for example, and it's never going to get easier, then maybe that's one to avoid and go with what you like. So this is about empowering you to master your craft more, and to really you know, enjoy your projects and get a result that you're really pleased with and proud of. So after these videos are going to come out in sequence, and at the end of that, the Cast On Toolkit will be available as a free PDF to download, and that'll basically be a place that collates all of the video tutorials, but also it'll have any additional notes that I would want to make. It'll be available, the link will appear below when that's ready and available for you, but we'll crack on with these for now. So I hope that's piqued your interest, and I do hope you will join me. So we'll be kicking off with the knit cast on. It's a very simple cast on many of us might be familiar with, but even if it's one you're familiar with, I do hope you'll tune in, because obviously we'll be talking about when you might choose to use that one over another, what are the qualities of that particular cast on that are going to serve us well in our projects. So as I say, some of the cast ons you'll be aware of, some of them will hopefully be new to you, but maybe we'll be looking at them in a fresh way. So look forward to seeing you next time. Please do bring your yarn and needles, and you can have a go alongside with these cast ons. Look forward to seeing you. Thanks for joining me today. If you find these videos of value, please give me a like, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.